Greetings, everybody. I'm Melissa Banczak, and welcome to episode 68 of Books Cubed, the show where I chat with the authors you should be reading. It is Thursday, June 25th, 2020, I think. Yeah, looking up my calendar real quick. Yes, that's the date. That's the date that this will air. So I'm dying to know what you're reading. Drop down to the show notes, click on the comment link, and let me know. I'm always looking for a great book. I read any genre. It doesn't matter whether it's fiction, nonfiction, whatever. And if you're an author, no problem. Tell me about the book that I need to read that you've written. So just let me know. I'm dying to know. Let's see. This week, I have got a great show. I know I always say that, but I have a great show this week. I am talking with Cameron Corll. We are talking post-Apoc and robots and artificial intelligence and the end of the world and robots versus humans. And it's so much fun. We had a great time this week. Great talk. And as you listen, we will tell you how you can win one of Cameron's ebooks. We'll tell you how to do that, and then I will draw one winner and let you know. And you have until July 15th at 6 o'clock Eastern. So I will have that listed in the show notes for you, but listen to the episode so you know what to do. So let me get right to it, and I will see you after. I want to welcome Cameron Corll today. I'm really excited to have her here because she wrote a book that I read recently that I absolutely loved. So welcome to the show.
Hi, Melissa. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm going to start. I'm so glad you could come on. I'm going to start with reading Cameron's bio. Cameron Corll writes science fiction and is the author of the Rogue Spark series, the Cyborg Guardian Chronicles, and the Rusted Wasteland series. Growing up with a NASA engineer in the family instilled a deep respect for science and asking lots of questions. Watching tons of Star Trek episodes helped too. Her imagination is fueled by breakthroughs in robotics, space travel, and psychology. After moving around a lot, she now lives in Chicago with her husband, where she endlessly discovers interesting characters and new stories to tell. If you want a free novel or advanced copies of books, you can join her website, which is CameronCorll.com, and we will mention that again one more time. And I want to start today with talking about her Steel Guardian series. This one came out, I want to say this one came out recently. Yeah,
December?
yeah. So Steel Guardian came out, oh, here it says February 2020.
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of a complicated because it originally came out in December, and then we unpublished it, and then I republished it in February.
Okay. Well, writers do that sometimes.
Yes.
Okay, so let me tell you, the Steel Guardian, it is part of book one of the Rusted Wasteland. So let me read the description real quick for you guys. Can a gentle robot win the fight for humanity's last hope? Before the robot uprising, Block, the cleaner bot, dutifully followed his programming as part of a hotel cleaning crew. Now, in the aftermath of the AI apocalypse that annihilated the world, he tries to simply do his job, avoiding the dangerous soldier bots and who wage war on the last human survivors. I have the worst time talking in the mornings, as normal listeners can attest to. But when Block finds a mysterious human infant, he's compelled to care for the girl and travel across the metal-infested wastelands of America to a safe haven 700 miles away. Without proper food and care, the baby could die before he reaches safety. When he encounters Nova, a surly soldier who becomes an unlikely ally, they must tackle the biggest challenge of their lives. Together, they face mortal danger from bands of scavengers, militaristic soldier bots, combat mechs, and a cyborg bounty hunter who will stop at nothing to find Block and the child, an infant who might hold the key to humanity's future. And you describe the book here as Johnny 5 meets Wall-E in a world of Terminators. And I completely agree with that description, because that is exactly what I thought when I started reading this book.
Awesome. Well, that is exactly what I wanted you to think. So that makes me so happy. Yeah, I love writing the character of Block, and I'm working on books 2 and 3 in the series at the same time. So I'm over halfway through. So book 2 is completely drafted, awaiting edits, and then book 3 I'm about halfway, maybe 60% through. And I really did that intentionally because I wanted to make sure that there's just all the continuity, and really trying to make sure I'm continuing to make that Block's character really you know hit the same notes, and just have more adventure and meeting lots of new characters in that world, but also taking the reader on a journey with Block. So it's just been the best character to write. And
He really is. And if you're thinking, oh, robot, oh, boring, no, completely not. In the very beginning, I'm not going to give anything away by saying this. In the very beginning, Block is with a little, I forget what kind of robot it was.
Vacubot.
What was he?
Vacubot.
A vacubot. And as you're reading it, he's taking care of this vacubot. He's trying to find a place to recharge this little thing. At one point, he's hiding it, and it gets out, and it goes off and gets itself almost captured, just like a child would do. And it was very important, I thought, to establish that Block had the makings of a parent.
Yeah.
He really did. And I kept putting the book down because I was so worried about little vacubot. And it took me a while to get through that section because I was just so worried about him. And I wanted to sit and read the book all in one day, but then I didn't want to, because then the book was going to be over. And I know everybody listening who is a real reading freak, who, when you get to there's some books that you just do not want to keep reading because they're going to be over, and you don't want to lose that world that you're in. So I was very excited. I thought it was a standalone, and I was very excited to find out that it was part of a series. Do you plan just 3 books for this series?
So definitely the 3 are going to kind of end that first story arc, but I'm pretty sure I want to keep writing in that world. I think there's just so much that can happen, and so many interesting side characters that I'm discovering as I'm writing. So I think there will be more in the future.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. And I saw that in your bio that you have a NASA, someone worked at NASA?
Yeah, so my stepfather, Mike, was a NASA engineer for over 40 years. And so I grew up in Maryland, and so he was an engineer at NASA Goddard Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. And it was really fun just having a having a rocket scientist in the family.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because then you've got Star Trek on TV, and then you've got Star Trek in real life. And
Yeah.
that just, like you said in your bio, that just must have given you all kinds of inspiration for stories, which probably explains why everything that you have on your Amazon page is science fiction related.
Yeah. I always read. I was always a big reader as a kid, and it's interesting because my stepfather actually got me really interested in reading and writing in general, because when I was about 8, he was from Maine, and he gave me he gifted me the book Salem's Lot by Stephen King. And I was 8, but he said, here's this nifty writer. He lives in Bangor, Maine, where I'm from. And it just got me obsessed with Stephen King and vampires. And I carried that book around everywhere, even though I didn't really understand everything. I carried it around everywhere. I was always reading it. And it made me want to become a writer. I really wanted to read and be like Stephen King. So that was really fun. And then I grew up loving shows like Star Trek, and kind of wanting to be like a Star Trek person in my life when I grew up, and like live on a ship and work on a computer and have adventures. So it's just
it kind of came true.
It did. I love inventing these worlds, and researching new scientific things that can be applied in my book, like the idea of how would a robot like Block actually be powered and move around. And so something I saw that was emerging is like a power where it's generated from like waste products like petroleum and oils and things that we would just like maybe toss in a landfill that are harmful, but it can actually generate certain energy, and there's different microbes that feed on that and produce energy. So that's how Block is powered, and that's why he needs to find like oil and waste products, and he loves to just clean up the dirt, and it goes into his microbial cavity in his abdomen, and that's how he generates power. So just like finding weird things like that that can go into my stories is just a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then was it last year that you were at Seattle for the sci-fi?
Yeah.
I forget what it was called. I wanted to go, but something came up and I couldn't. I was really bummed about that.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was called Sci-Fi Seattle, and it was hosted by Jay Thorne and Zach Bohannon, who do a lot of these writer trips, like Authors on a Train and different fun retreats for writers. And so it was about, I guess, 10 or 11 of us came together in Seattle, and we actually hung out at the Museum of Pop Culture, which if you ever get a chance to go there, it's fantastic. And
Yeah, I
we,
was there. Yeah, I was there last the like just like 2 months before it was announced. And they had a
oh,
Star Trek exhibit and you could get on the transporter. And I don't know if it was still there when you were there, and you could be transported to a scene and then you'd act out the scene. And I was alone, so I thought, I'm not doing it by myself. But I watched a bunch of people do it. And then they had a Borg thing that you could go inside. It was really cool. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, it was very cool museum. If you are in the area, you can go to it.
yeah, it was fantastic. And so we did world building. And so we actually built a universe together. We all sat in a room and we brainstormed ideas. And it was so fun to just be with other writers. So there were a few people who were experienced sci-fi authors, and then there were other people who wrote fantasy or YA. One of the authors writes sci-fi comedy. So it was a really great eclectic mix of people, and that generated a lot of cool ideas. And so we this world building, we created these two alien species. One was called the Teku, one was called the Krad, and they come to Earth every 2,000 years. And so we actually planned out this timeline of like that spans 50,000 years or something. And these things happen, and then along the way, humans get the technology and you know can get into space and can travel at near light speed. And so it created this incredible universe that we could tell stories from. And so we each wrote a short story, and that anthology just came out last week, and it was just a lot of fun. And then all of the proceeds go towards a group called Tech Bridge Girls, which is a nonprofit that actually has offices in Seattle, DC, and California, and they help low-income girls get science and technology and engineering training, and help them kind of see the role that science and technology can play in their life. And so it's just really exciting to have been a part of it. And I think the stories came out so well. It's a fun read. It's in Kindle Unlimited if you have that and want a bunch of good stories, and it goes towards charity. So
Yeah, and it's got. I just saw that just come out. I was very excited. I have not got a copy yet, but I will. I plan on it, and it's got a great cover.
the cover is
It's got a
amazing.
spaceship
Yeah.
with the space background, which is what you expect when you think
Yeah. It's,
sci-fi. You want to see that spaceship on the cover. And just
yeah.
like with robots, I love the cover of yours. You've got Brock right there, Block right there. He's just a really interesting, and I do like how you had given him how he powers himself. I thought that was really interesting because you don't see that a lot in books on robots. They just have the robot, he does his thing, and they don't really go into the details of his life, so to speak. And I did like how Nova, the human traveling with him, was disgusted all the time by what he was feeding himself.
Yes.
So you did have a nice element. There's a nice comedic element that goes through with the very dramatic moments that it has also. And yeah, I can't wait for 2 and 3 to come out. So you need to get cracking on those.
I know.
so was that the first time you've done a writing retreat like that?
No, actually, I did Zach and Jay's Authors on a Train in 2018. And so that was so fun. So for anyone that in the audience who doesn't know, Authors on a Train is also a authors retreat, but we started off in Chicago, and we got on an Amtrak overnight train to New Orleans. And so a bunch of us authors, we each found a co-writing partner, and then we spent several days in New Orleans just seeing the city and getting together and in workshops and starting to come up with the ideas and writing with our partner. And so that was also an anthology that was published, and we had a theme of dark magic and voodoo. So it was a lot of fun. I wrote a story with Chloe Adler, and it's called The Soul Collector, and it was just a lot of fun to go to, check out some of the places in New Orleans. We went to a house, the House of Voodoo, and saw some of the shrine, like just the different artwork and shrines and some of the history about the history and legends of that area. It was just so much fun.
I like that. I like that idea of getting to the area and really getting immersed in the area, the culture, the people, how it feels, how it smells, how it looks, and all that comes into the writing. And I really liked the I had them on the show. I think it was March of 2019. I did March of the Zombies for the whole month of March. We talked zombie books, and it was their anthology that they did for the Night of the Living Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Was that it? Yeah, Night of the Living Dead. Night of
Mm-hmm.
the Writing Dead? Is that what they called it? I try to remember what they called it. I'll have to look. I'll have a link in the show notes. But that one's a bunch of zombie stories. And we'll have that in the show notes also, and the New Orleans one, and maybe just even the link to their page themselves, because if you are a writer, you might want to think about joining them on one of the retreats. I was supposed to go to the October one in New Orleans, and because of COVID, it was pushed to 2021, and my daughter's getting married in October 2021. So it's like, nah, I got a previous, so I can't go to that one. So my roommate, I sent her a note and said, I'm sorry, I can't go now, but I'm going to the Salem one now, which Salem Witches in July of next year. And she said, I'm going too. I said, oh, great. So that works. We'll just move our roommate situation, I guess,
Yeah.
are you going to go to the one in Salem next year, or to New Orleans?
I'm thinking about the one in Salem, actually, because my very good friend lives in Beverly, Massachusetts, so not terribly far from Salem, and she lives in this crazy old 300-year-old house.
Oh, lovely.
Old colonial house, and yeah, I've stayed there before, and it's really wonderful. So old. I do think it's haunted, actually, because we slept in the attic, and I feel like there was something happening. And there was one of those little rooms, like a crawl space, and I don't know. I feel like I woke up in the middle of the night, and like there was a spirit or something there.
Oh,
Maybe
that's
it was
cool.
my imagination run wild, but it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. And yeah, I wanted to go because I found out I've got a witch in my family. I can't remember her name,
Cool.
but she was one of the Salem witches. I think she was hung. I think it took him like 25 years finally to get her. I have to go back and look again. But So I said, oh, that one, since I've got a witch in the family, I need to definitely go to that one. But I hadn't really thought about writing, witches, but who knows? Because I write comedy, cozy mystery. And I am thinking about doing some science fiction next year, but it does have an element of comedy through it because that's just, I can't not do that. And I've tried writing just straight drama. Doesn't work.
Wow.
It doesn't
Yeah,
work. I
I think
did a screenplay, a short, and when we had the reading for it, we all kept laughing, and I said, we seriously need to do this as a tongue-in-cheek because it's too funny. But anyway, so okay, so that's I'd call that a pilgrimage.
yeah.
Do you have any other ones? Like I want to write a book in Italy. So that's on my bucket list if COVID ever goes away. I told my husband we're going to go to Italy for at least 2 weeks because I really want to immerse myself, find some place that's, in a little town somewhere and get the feel for going to the market and all those things so that I can write that into my characters. Do you have anything like that you want to do, assuming COVID ever goes away?
Well, I love to travel, and I was really fortunate because actually before, so I was a project manager and I worked for a global company, and I got to do a lot of traveling earlier in my career. And I actually lived in Australia for a year and a half. So I've always wanted to really kind of tell some of the stories about Australia and the area where I lived in South Australia. Maybe something like in the outback. And actually, speaking of train trips, I was just thinking how I probably wouldn't do an overnight train trip like the one I did from Chicago to New Orleans again, but there are some other train journeys in other countries that look really cool. Like there's one in the outback in Australia where you leave from South Australia and you end up in Western Australia. So you're traveling across a really vast, like really unpopulated desert area of the country. So I think that would be really cool to do. There's so many cities in Europe that I haven't been to that I would love to go. I would love to spend time in Spain and maybe some cities like Prague. There's just so much to see and experience. And I can't wait till we can kind of travel more in some of the.
Oh yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Do you think that you would stick with sci-fi? Add a sci-fi element to the outback of Australia?
Yeah, I think I will probably try mainly to stick to sci-fi. Yeah, I just gravitate towards it whenever even with the books I read, the movies I watch, the shows I watch, I just love sci-fi worlds and speculative sci-fi. It's just where I go to, where I gravitate. So yeah, I'll stick with the genre.
So you've been writing now since 2017?
Actually, since 2015 is when I started writing nonfiction, and I started blogging, and I started my first NaNoWriMo in 2015. But it took me 2 years to do my first novel, my first sci-fi novel, because it started with NaNoWriMo. I got about 20,000 words into it, and then I think I picked it up again sometime the following year. I was also writing some short stories and things like that, but it took the next NaNoWriMo to actually finish it, and then it took a long time, like a year or more, to edit and start that series. So it was kind of a slow road. I felt more comfortable writing nonfiction because my project management, my business background, that just kind of made sense, and that's really where I started trying to find my voice. And then it was harder for me to to transition into storytelling and fiction, but I'm really glad I did. And I think we always say, oh, I wish I'd started writing earlier. I had done a lot of starts and stops even when I was younger. So I, probably would have told my younger self to, like, hey, keep going, keep trying. But I think authors kind of go through this journey, and we have we have to kind of evolve, and it's not always an easy road.
Yeah, no, it's not, and a lot of times you don't have the experiences or the ideology or whatever to really make it work. Yeah, because I didn't publish my first book until 2000, I think it was 2017. So I was in my 50s before I published my first book. And I hear a lot of authors then they're in their 20s and they're thinking, oh my God, it's too late already. And I'm thinking, dude, just keep writing, just keep
Exactly.
working at it.
Yeah, it's
So
never
when you sit down, then when you come up with an idea, so you have 3 series, does the character come to you? Does the situation, or does the how do you start a new series?
Mhm. Well, it's been a little different for each series. It's kind of evolved. So but something that's been consistent throughout is the idea. So it's something, it's kind of how the character is manifested. So I knew I knew Steel Guardian would be about a robot. I didn't and a robot who finds a baby. I didn't know exactly what he would be like until I started kind of, sketching out the plot. I knew Cyborg Guardian Chronicles, I knew I wanted to write about a woman who becomes a cyborg, so half human, half machine, and how does she deal with that when she's the only one. And then for my first series, Rogue Spark, I knew I wanted a character who had been, I knew I want this idea of what if you had the power to heal? What would that make your life like? And how, if people knew that you had this power to like bring somebody back from the brink of death, how would that change your life? And would very powerful people be after you because you could potentially save them from any harm that might happen, that might befall them. So I guess to answer this question, kind of answered my own question, that it's always the idea that I come up with first. And then as I start to outline, I start to define the character and their particular personality traits. And one of the things I use a lot is I have this big giant book of astrology. So it's based on the Chinese calendar and the zodiac signs. And so there are literally hundreds of different personality types and traits. And so I'll kind of flip through and pick out some of the interesting ones that you might not actually think about. Like there's actually a robot named Ogre in my Rogue Spark series. And I picked out one of these personality traits or archetypes, and it was that they would really love playing billiards. And so I had this robot named Ogre who was part of a robot police force, bad enemy, and then he kind of gets pulled over to the good side. And so one of the things is he's starting to learn how to interact with humans and discovers the game of billiards, and he's obsessed with it. And so just weird little traits like that I try to make my characters more interesting with those.
Well, that really does make it interesting. And and I love that he plays billiards. And with Block in Steel Guardians, I kept picturing him with a British accent just because he was so proper.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that even as things are absolutely crazy, he's wanting to stop and clean things.
Yeah, because
and I
programming, and he worked at a luxury hotel in Chicago called the Drake, and it's a very old. Yeah, so he's very proper, and he's got these settings of hospitality, like he wants to make guests comfortable, and he doesn't want to offend anybody, and yeah, it'll drive him crazy if something's dirty.
Yeah, and then there were several points where he absolutely had to be in the dirt or just in the middle of a battle. He's like, oh, wait a minute, let me clean this over here. No, we got to get away. So I really liked his character a lot. And how much are you going to let him grow, do you think? Or how much can you? Because if you make him grow too much, he's no longer the character that we came to love in the first book.
Right.
You worried about that at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, now you are. Sorry.
Now that you mention it. No. Yeah, no, that's definitely been on my mind, because I do want him to have some kind of a journey, transform somehow. So that I'm thinking about that, and how I don't want to, there are forces out there that will try to corrupt him, and maybe try to, something that he has to deal with is, because of the way he was programmed, um, he's ends up being, back before the uprising, he had to be invisible a lot. Like humans didn't, they were starting to get suspicious of robots, and not only taking away people's jobs, but feeling threatened by how militarized the robots were becoming. And so there was a movement to recall the robots and turn them in. And so there's a lot of kind of fear happening. So Block had to be invisible a lot of times and not disturb people. And so how does, and to other robots, they always underestimate him. He's just a cleaner bot. And so how does he kind of, and he's very timid, but he needs to save, this human, he needs to be an advocate. So how do you, the way his journey is going to be very interesting, and how he grapples with some of those problems.
Most definitely, most definitely. And it is fun. He has changed a little bit from the beginning of the book to the end. Definitely. I mean, I need probably to go back and reread it again one more time. He just, he's really an interesting character. And I didn't think that a robot would be able to. And I think the book is like halfway before you meet the first human.
Mm-hmm. Something like that. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, 25%.
Yeah, and I did not miss them at all.
Well, that's great. I did, I wasn't sure because I hadn't written something like this, and I did think about that. Like, well, is somebody really going to relate to a robot character? But a series that actually really influenced me is the Murderbot series by Martha Wells. There's 5 books in that series, and it's a robot protagonist. It's told in first person, and it is a little different in that it's a robot who was programmed to be like a security unit for people who, like, for scientific missions, or people who go out exploring different planets in this galaxy. And it's a corporate robot, so you kind of hire out this security guard robot, and it ends up hacking its own, it has a governor module, so it ends up hacking into that and taking its control of itself. And it's just such an interesting character. He's very the character is very snarky and almost arrogant, but also very socially awkward. And so that, because I loved that series so much, I just thought, I think I can write about this robot, and I think I can make it interesting enough that somebody would be wanting to read through the whole series.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, he felt more human to me than some of the humans we encounter later in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just because I went through so much with him by the time that we do encounter more humans in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's it. But I think a lot of it is that those interactions with him and the little bot in the very beginning.
Yeah.
The little bot. I love the little bot. Anyway, so so there's two, when you think about robots and artificial intelligence, there's 2 fields of thought. There's the one field that says robots are only what we program them to be, and you're not always going to get what you want because you may have flaws in your programming and the robot may not perform what you want. And then there's the other thought that robots are, and it involves shrieking and screaming and running from the room because robots will take over the world and destroy us all. So where do you find yourself with those two extremes?
Oh, well, I think we're really far from that robots are going to take over the world kind of thing. That we're probably placing a lot more intelligence on artificial beings than they have the capacity for in the near future. But I just think it's so interesting. I think there's a lot of ethical considerations if robots do reach, what makes us human is one of the themes of my series, really across all series, because I feature robots in every series. Not always as the main character, but they're in there. But what does make us human? And just because, like, if you are augmented, let's say, and at what point are you, do you stop being human? Or if you are, like, if an AI creates something, is that, there's ongoing questions going on right now about whether that is something that can be copyrighted. Does the AI actually own what they create, or is it the programmer's copyright? Or can something that is created by an AI even be copyrighted? Is it just generated? I think one of the things that's really interesting to me is when robots do kind of have more of an independence, and I do think that's down the road. I think there will be advances in artificial intelligence, and I don't know if there would be something approaching emotions. I hope so, because that's what I write about, and that's what I'm kind of dreaming about happening. Because I kind of believe I would be on the side of AI rights. And down the road, if they are independent and they're going to maybe I think they would want the same things we do, like having a good life and purpose and being happy, being surrounded, having other companions, other family even. That's kind of what I see happening. I don't think they would be something to be afraid of, or I don't envision a Skynet kind of thing happening. I mean, obviously, if there was a bad element or some kind of nefarious programming that caused something like a Skynet to happen, I mean, I think we could control a lot of where that goes.
Yeah, I think you watch things like Terminator, and I think there were large leaps from Skynet having the codes to Skynet deciding to kill everybody to make it safe. I thought that was a really large leap in that. But like you said, the programming, and I was just reading something recently about, I think I saw a TED Talk recently where she talked about the programming, and it depends on how you program. What you put in is what you're going to get back out.
Right.
And yeah, and there are some really interesting advancements in artificial intelligence storytelling, and people creating, putting your words in, saying enough words that it can, then the AI can talk as you,
right?
Which I thought was kind of interesting. Also, you can have a conversation. I could set up a bot and people could have a conversation with me, and I wouldn't need to be there, but the bot would answer probably how I would answer based on maybe answers and questions that were fed into it to begin with.
Yes.
Yeah, which is, I mean, there's so much. I think the field of robotics is really, really fascinating. There's so many advances, so many things. I don't think I'm going to be one of those people that will jump at having computers run my house. I don't have any of the Alexa or any of that kind of stuff. I've got a friend who's got Alexa, and every time you hear her yelling in the background, "Shut up, Alexa," because she'll say something and it'll say, "Would you like to buy?" or "Would you like to hear?" No, I don't. And Yeah, that's Kim. Sometimes during the chat, you can hear her going, "Shut up, Alexa." I don't have Alexa. I don't have a doorbell cam. I don't think I ever want any of those kind of things. It's bad enough that I'll talk about stuff and then I'll get ads for what I was talking about
Mm-hmm.
in Facebook. And I know my brother-in-law says it has nothing to do. I don't know. I didn't text anything. And one day I walked into a bike shop and I was talking to somebody there and I left. Then I had all these ads for bicycles. So I know they're not supposed to have tracking on, but they had tracking and they knew where I'd gone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know what it was. We walked in the bike shop. I asked them about the stride ones where instead of pedaling, you're like just moving your feet. We used to live in Key West and I would see somebody with that all the time and think, that is so cool. You're standing up. Bicycle bothers me. It hurts my back to lean over. And I thought standing and doing the stride, whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked with them about that. We left. I came home. I went on Facebook and there were ads for that type of bicycle on my Facebook. And my brother-in-law is like, no, no, no. Or maybe it was my nephew. They're like, no, that's not why it happened. I said, I didn't talk about it to anyone. I didn't type anything into Facebook. My phone was in my pocket when I went in and talked to the guy. And I thought that creeps me out. So
Right.
that's something I think I might be one of those people that if there was a robot around, is it listening to me? Is my Roomba spying on me? There's a short story for you there. Is my
Yeah.
Roomba spying on me?
Well, I do love my Roomba. I love anything that makes me more productive. I think because I'm kind of a productivity nerd, so I love like putting my little vacuum bot on, and that's what inspired my character. But I love putting it on and then doing something else, and I'm like, the vacuuming's getting done, and I'm doing something else. I'm just nerdy like that.
Now, yeah, those are cool. I think my mom had one, and my cousin has one, and they used to have this cat that would ride the Roomba, and then whenever it was done, it would go back, and plug in to get recharged, and the cat would cat knew what button to push to make it go again. And she'd be
Wow.
like, no, 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 Monty, you have to let it charge. And the cat would get back on the Roomba and go, it would take it back. He would push the button to make it go again because he liked to ride it all around the house.
That is so cool.
That's like
I
the
love
robots with
cats
their cat
riding.
overlords.
If I'm having a bad day, I'll look at the cat in a shark suit riding a Roomba with a duck. It's
There's
like
something hysterically funny and calming about that. Yeah, I totally agree. It's like watching a fish tank, watching the cat sitting on the Roomba. You don't see dogs riding them. Dogs
no,
don't like that. And there was one with a baby riding one. I thought, how did the baby get on the Roomba?
no.
um,
Cats
but
don't.
but yeah, cats in shark suits riding Roombas are hysterical. Yeah, yeah. So I don't. So do you think? Okay, so 5 years from now, they come up with block. Would you buy one and have it at your house?
Yes.
Yeah. I figured you'd say yes. I think I would be real. I don't know if I would or not.
I
I'm
would
not sure.
love a robot that does housework and cleaning and simple tasks. I just think I think that's definitely something that will be happening, and things like robot companions for people who are in nursing homes or people
Yeah.
who need, people who just need care in their home. I think there's a very cool possible possible future for that. I actually was just saw a headline about how because of COVID and so many people in quarantine, and that things like chatbots are becoming very popular. Like I don't know if you saw the movie Her. Um,
Yes. I was thinking
but
about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were saying how that predicted a lot of what's happening now, where people are relying on this artificial intelligence for companionship because they can't necessarily go out and spend time with people, but they're lonely. Um, and I think, I would even see something like a Her where an AI like that becomes more sentient, and you're going to need psychologists to help the robots. And that's kind of an idea I've had
Yeah.
about it. Maybe that'll become a story or something. But yeah, somebody who's a robot psychologist who would and that's their occupation. And it's just an idea, but maybe that'll turn into something at some point.
Yeah, most definitely. And yeah, my mom's in a memory care unit. She has dementia, and last 2 Christmases ago, my sister and I got her a robotic cat.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's very cool. It's from a company called Joy for All, which is a offshoot of Hasbro. And I'll put links in the show notes. So if you have a relative in memory care, they have a dog and they have a cat. I like the cat better. The dog sits up and it's a little harder to hold, but the cat lays and her ears turn. She turns her head, she meows, her eyes open and close. She licks her paw and then she'll roll over so you can scratch her belly.
Wow.
And it just depends on where you are touching her on her body, depends on what she does. And she's got to be motion activated, because when I walk in her room, or when I used to walk in her room before COVID shut everything down, she would start meowing as soon as I walk in the room and as soon as there was motion.
Wow.
And yeah, sometimes she meows so much. I went there one day and I said to my mom, where's Kitty? Where's Puss Puss? I think that's what she calls her. Oh, I don't know. I think she ran away. I'm like, it's a very expensive robotic cat. I really hope she didn't run away. So I searched her room and I found the cat on the floor of her closet with laundry piled on top of it. So I think that the cat was just meowing too much and bothering her. So
Mhm.
she hid it. At least she
Mhm.
didn't throw it away. She keeps
Yeah.
throwing her clothes and her glasses away. Ugh. So anyway, but yeah, the robotic cat is very cool, and it keeps her from being lonely.
That's really
Especially right now where I can't get out to see her. We used to get out to see her 4 or 5 times a week and take her out to lunch or breakfast or for a walk or go to the park. Or we went to the beach one day, and and since you can't do any of those things, of course, the
yeah.
robotic cat has been really cool. And I completely forgot, we were talking about robots and I forgot, yeah, the robotic cat is a robot. It just doesn't, it's not going to rise up and kill her probably. Well, it can't walk, so she can get away from it pretty easy. Oh gosh. So tell people where they can find you.
Yes. CameronCoral.com is my website. And if you go there, you can actually get and sign up for my newsletter list. You can get a full-length novel called After We Fall. It's a story based in my Rogue Spark series universe. And yeah, so that's the best way to get in touch.
Oh, fantastic. And I loved Steel Guardian so much that let's do a giveaway. I will give away an e-copy. All you have to do is comment on the show. This is over at our YouTube page. Don't comment on the podcast page because I will never see it. The podcast is all over the place and I just won't see it. So if you go down to the show links, the show notes, there'll be a link at the top saying comment over on our YouTube page. Go to the YouTube page, and I think it's probably pretty easy to, I always say, I think it's pretty easy to comment on the YouTube page. I think you just have to scroll down and hit comment. Do that, and let's come up with a question for them to answer just so people don't. So let's ask them a question. Okay, so are you in the camp of, and anybody probably can figure it out then from the comments, are you in the camp of, do you think that AI is going to take over the world and destroy it? Or are you of the mindset that AI is only what we can program it with and it will always be pro-human? I guess. So which way do you tend to go? So just tell us in the comments, and maybe include if you would have a cleaner bot or a bot companion maybe. So let us know in the comments, and let's see, let's do July 15th. That gives us a couple weeks. I'm going to write this down so I don't forget. So July 15th, whatever day that is. Is that a Thursday? I hope not. Let's see.
July 15th is a Wednesday.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so July 15th is a Wednesday. I will pick at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Eastern on July 15th. I'll grab a name. So, and I'll give away an e-copy of Steel Guardians. It is so much fun. And if you don't have an e-reader, you can download the Kindle app on your phone. It is wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Melissa. I had such a blast. This was fun.
Me too. And I will see you later. Bye-bye. Thanks, Cameron. Okay. go ahead and comment just what we asked you to comment, and put it down in the show notes. Click on comment over on the YouTube channel, leave your comment there, and on July 15th at 6 p.m. I will draw one winner, and you will win an e-copy of Steel Guardians. It is so good. If you like robots and you like post-apoc, you will love this book. And like I said during the show, I kept thinking, am I gonna like this? Am I gonna like it? Because I always worry when I start a new series, and I didn't want to put the book down, really didn't. And it was so good. And so highly recommend the book. And if you already own Steel Guardians, then we can get you, I will get you one of her other books, any of her other ebooks. That's it for this week. You can comment, like I said, go down and you click on comment over on the YouTube channel. I'm still out of it from the walking when it's hot. I really shouldn't do that. Let's see, what else? Oh, we are over on Instagram, and you will also find Books Cubed on Facebook. I kept toying with having the Facebook page for this show, and it's a lot of work, but I had it for a while, and then I kind of unpublished it, and then I kept getting people commenting when it was unpublished. I said, okay, I guess I should bring it back. So if you go to Facebook and you look up Books Cubed, you'll find us, and you can comment on there, or like I said, you can comment on Instagram or the YouTube page. So that's it for this time, and I will have another great show for you next week. And in the meantime, go read a good book.